there, I'm Ellie.
I'm Martin.
And today we are at Kildrummy Castle.
I hope you enjoy.
The ruinous remains of Kildrummy Castle still stand on the site it occupied for almost 500 years as a forbidding guardian of the Highlands in a strategic position at the gateway into Murray and Buchan.
Hello.
It began life in the mid-13th century as a mighty and well-appointed stronghold and played host to many kings and earls until its active life ended with the Jacobite Rising of 1715. The medieval earldom of Mar was defined as being the valleyed area between the rivers Don and Dee in what is now Aberdeenshire. Kildrummy was conceived as a great fortress residence and was built in a grand manner incorporating many styles that were fashionable throughout Western Europe at the time. It has been altered and changed many times to suit its various owners' changing needs. The castle was originally built on a pentagonal or shield plan. Towers were sited at the entrance and at the four angles of the curtain wall. These towers were equipped with battlements and arrow slits from which the castle could be defended. The bases of these towers splay outwards. This was to ensure that any attackers stayed in sight of the line of fire. The northwest wall rises high above a steep ravine known as the Back Den, and the sloping ground on either side of the castle was defended by a ditch around 25 metres across and 5 metres deep. The gatehouse is thought to have been built for the English King Edward I in around 1300 and would have presented a formidable entrance into the castle's courtyard. Its upper floors contained apartments for the Earl's leading officials. The ground floor rooms were stone vaulted and the floor is set with a fine herringbone pattern which still survives although it has been grassed over to preserve it. Two smaller towers, called interval towers, project from the east and west curtain walls. In the 15th century these were known as the Burgess Tower and the Maldis Tower, although it is not known which was which or why they were so called. Each tower has 3 floors. The ground floors had no opening through the curtain wall and no access to the floors above, which suggests that they were storage rooms. They also had a sliding drawbar at the foot of the stairs which would have ensured that the towers could have been defended if an enemy had entered into the courtyard. The first floors were fitted with 3 arrow splits and a privy, and the top floors had fireplaces. These 2 floors together may have served as a hall and chamber for the Earl's leading officials. The chapel was situated on the first floor at the eastern end of the Great Hall. Its trio of tall lancet windows formed a significant focal point. They were big enough to throw light onto the altar. There is visible remains of a cupboard in which the altar vessels would have been stored in the adjacent north wall, and a small vestry just beyond. The Warden's Tower would have housed the castle's warden or constable, who would have been in charge of security. This is the most complete part of the castle. The ground floor would have been a dungeon. It has its own privy. As with the interval towers, the first floor has arrow slits and a privy, and the two upper floors appear to have been quite grandly appointed, with fireplaces and windows. The Great Hall was a large reception and banqueting space, and was situated between the Snow Tower and the Warden's Tower. It had large windows, and a stone bench ran along the side walls. There is no evidence of a fireplace, which suggests the hall may have been heated by freestanding braziers. The high table where the Earl and Countess would sit at banquets would have been at the upper west end of the hall, with access to a withdrawing room. There was also a gallery area in which the minstrels would have provided musical entertainment. The Snow Tower is massively high and unusually sophisticated, and was the largest of the towers projecting from the curtain wall. Built in the 13th century, it was 7 stories high and had its own draw well. It was the private lodging for the Earl and Countess of Mar and their immediate family. It was an elaborate structure similar to the towers of the Castle Coucy in France, which was built in the 1220s by Enguerrand de Coucy, whose daughter Marie married King Alexander II of Scotland. Kildrummie Castle has a fantastic and colourful history. Kildrummie's strategic position inevitably brought it to the fore during the Wars of Independence. King Edward I of England, known as the Hammer of the Scots, came here twice. The first time was shortly after his initial invasion of Scotland in 1296. The second time was in 1303. Marriage linked the Earls of Mar to Robert the Bruce, who became King of Scots and led the resistance against English rule. The Bruce family lived here for a short time before needing to escape Edward's troops and head north. In 1306, Edward, Prince of Wales and Earl of Pembroke, marched on Kildrummie, and Bruce's brother was forced to retreat during the brutal siege, which ended when one of Kildrummie's blacksmiths turned traitor and set fire to the castle. In 1335, Sir Andrew Murray, the then Earl of Mar, defeats the pro-English forces of Earl David of Atholl just south of Kildrummie at the Battle of Culbleen. King David II, Robert the Bruce's son, besieged the castle again, fighting against Earl Thomas of Mar after discovering that he had pledged allegiance to King Edward III, reclaiming Kildrummie for the Scots in 1363. In 1374, the Earldom of Mar had passed to Isabel, the niece of Earl Thomas. Alexander Stewart, the illegitimate son of Alexander, Earl of Buchan, the infamous Wolf of Badenoch, forces Isabel to marry him and gains control of Kildrummie. The castle and a substantial part of the Mar estates were granted by James IV to Alexander, the first Lord of Elphinstone, in 1507. The Elphinstones remained in residence until 1626, when John Erskine, the second Earl of Mar, and his descendants came belatedly into their rightful inheritance. In September 1715, John Erskine VI, Earl of Mar, launched the Third Jacobite Rising, seeking to enthrone Prince James Stuart. Marching from Kildrummie to Corgarth, then on to Braemar, he was met at Sheriffmuir near Dunblane, and on the 13th of November the rising ended. The Earl escaped to France, and the mighty Kildrummie Castle was left to ruin. We hope you enjoyed your little walking tour of Kildrummie Castle. What a fabulous place it must have been.
Yeah, in its heyday it would have been something else.
Hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now. Take care.
Bye.